Now this is a question regarding coastal wetlands. So we know about wetlands, right? So wetlands means wetlands are water covered area that support both aquatic and terrestrial life. So wetlands are water covered area, fully or partially, okay, for varying periods of time also, and that will support both aquatic and terrestrial life. That is known as wetlands, and we are having coastal wetlands. So this is a question regarding coastal wetland, and the question is like this: which one of the following is not a correct statement about coastal wetlands? So they are asking about the not correct statement, okay, and they have been given the statement like this: coastal habitats like mangroves and salt marshes play an important role in reducing climate change. And second statement: mangroves and coastal wetlands store 3 to 5 times more carbon per equivalent area than tropical forest. Then C, carbon sequestration is the process of releasing carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Then C, coastal blue carbon is the carbon captured by living coastal and marine organisms and stored in coastal ecosystems. So these are the four statements. Now let us look at the statements. Okay, so we know about coastal wetlands, right? Coastal wetlands are largely dominated by mangrove trees. We know about the importance of mangrove trees. Mangrove trees having more capacity to convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrates. Okay, so and there is a calculation also that recently some researchers found that these mangrove forests are sequestering 10 times more than that of the tropical forest. Okay, so carbon sequestration is done by the mangroves 10 times than that of this tropical forest. Okay, that's a new research, right? Now, a healthy coastal habitat is not only important for seafood and recreation, it is also plays an important role in reducing climate change. How? Because I said that mangroves is the dominant species in coastal wetlands, and mangroves are having more capacity to convert carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to carbohydrates. So if we are reducing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, that means we can reduce the climate change. So mangroves is having an important role in reducing the climate change. So that's why coastal wetland is having also an important role in reducing the climate change. Okay. Then salt marshes, mangroves and seagrass beds absorb large quantities of greenhouse gas carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it. That means they are sequestering the carbon. Carbon sequestration is done by this mangrove vegetation and seagrasses like that. And thus by absorbing this carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, they are decreasing the effects of global warming, thereby reducing the climate change. So these types of habitat are known as carbon sinks. So we know about the concept of carbon sinks. Carbon sink means where the place where some amount of some materials are stored in a bulk amount. For example, here carbon sink means the carbon will be stored in that place in a large amount. So mangrove forest is a carbon sink because there are lots of carbon present in mangrove forest, and forest is also carbon sink because forest is having carbon, because carbon dioxide is converted into carbohydrate, okay, and that is stored in the plants or trees, right? So that's why forest is also a sink. So wherever a material is concentrated in a high amount, and that is known as sink. Okay, so these kinds of habitat are known as carbon sinks and contain large stores of carbon accumulated over hundreds to thousands of years. Okay, and that carbon sinks and that regions is known as coastal blue carbon. So coastal blue carbon means the carbon dioxide captured by the coastal wetlands or the vegetation seen in the coastal wetlands. Okay, so using more scientific lingo, coastal blue carbon is the carbon captured by living coastal and marine organisms and stored in coastal ecosystems. So whatever the carbon dioxide captured by the living organisms and vegetation in the coastal region, coastal wetlands or coastal ecosystems, and that is known as coastal blue carbon. Okay, we know the importance of mangroves, right? Mangroves is providing shelter for wide variety of species. Then it is sequestering carbon in a high amount, and it is protecting the shoreline from the wave actions because it is having two kinds of root system, right? Extensive root system and air breathing root systems are there. Because of these kinds of root system, it is protecting the coastal from the soil erosion and also from the wave action. So that there are lots of importance for This mangroves. Okay, and now let us look at two important roles. Salt marshes, mangroves and seagrass beds play two important roles. One is, we already dealt that means carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration means the process of capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and it is measured as a rate of carbon uptake per year. Then carbon storage. So whatever the carbon sequestered, that will be stored in the body of the mangroves or seagrasses like that, right? So carbon storage means the long term confinement of carbon in plant material or sediment measured as a total weight of the carbon stored. So that is known as carbon storage. So carbon sequestration as well as this carbon storage is done by these coastal wetlands. That means the salt marshes, mangroves and seagrasses, seagrass beds. Okay, so these are the main points regarding coastal wetland and mangroves. And we also need to know about the important mangrove vegetation or mangrove forest in India, because earlier the UPSC used to ask the places or the states which is having mangrove forest. So you also need to note down that states. So these points are the points from the new research. Okay. So current studies suggest that mangroves and coastal wetlands annually sequester carbon at a rate 10 times greater than a mature tropical forest. So they are mangroves and coastal wetlands are sequestering carbon 10 times greater than that of mature tropical forest. That's an important point. Okay. Then they also store, that means coastal wetlands and mangroves also store 3 to 5 times more carbon per equivalent area than tropical forest. So they are also storing more than that of tropical forest. Okay. And most coastal blue carbon is stored in the soil and not in the above ground plant material as with the tropical forest. So the in tropical forest carbon will be stored in the above the ground plant material. Okay, that means in the plant itself, in the tree itself they will be storing the carbon. So in the case of tropical forest, the carbon will be stored in the above the ground, that means in the within the body of the plant itself, tree itself. But in the case of coastal habitats, okay, or the coastal blue carbon is stored in the soil. Okay, so most of the coastal blue carbon is stored in the soil. Okay, so that also main point regarding this. Then when the coastal habitats are damaged or destroyed, what will happen? It's a sink. It's a sink of carbon, right? So if the coastal wetland is degraded, and that will act as a source for carbon dioxide. So the stored carbon dioxide will start to release. Okay, that will add to global warming. So when the coastal habitats are damaged or destroyed, it is not only their carbon sequestration capacity that is lost, it will also leading to carbon dioxide emission. Carbon stored in the habitat is also released, increasing the levels of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Okay. Then another point is coastal habitats around the world are being lost at a rapid rate, and largely due to the coastal development for housing, ports and commercial facilities. So for these mangrove forest or coastal wetlands are degrading in a fast rate. So you can see the graph there, carbon burial rate and the respective vegetation. Okay. So first one is tropical forest, then this is boreal forest, this is temperate forest, this is salt marshes this much, and this is mangroves this much, and this is seagrass this much. So carbon burial rate is more in salt marshes, mangroves and seagrasses when comparing to tropical forest. So this is the graph from the latest studies. Now let us look at the question again. Which one of the following is not a correct statement about coastal wetlands? First statement: coastal habitats like mangroves and salt marshes play an important role in reducing climate change. So that we discussed, because this coastal habitat or coastal ecosystems are storing carbon dioxide more than that of tropical forest. Hence they are capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, reducing the carbon dioxide from atmosphere, and that will lead to reducing climate change. So first statement is correct. Then B, mangroves and coastal wetlands store 3 to 5 times more carbon per equivalent area than tropical forest. That also we discussed, right? So B is also correct. Then C, carbon sequestration is a process of releasing carbon dioxide to atmosphere. That's a wrong statement, because carbon sequestration is the process of capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and converting it into carbohydrate and storing somewhere else, right? So that's the term known as carbon sequestration. It is not the process of releasing carbon dioxide. So C is the not correct answer. So our answer is C. And just go through the D also. Coastal blue carbon is the carbon captured by living coastal and marine organisms and stored in the coastal ecosystem. So that also we discussed. Coastal blue carbon is the carbon dioxide captured by the living organisms and coastal wetlands, right? And it will be stored in the coastal wetlands or coastal ecosystem, and that is known as coastal blue carbon. So D is also correct. Here the answer is C. Okay, so that's the C is the not correct answer, not correct statement.